Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the 2019 drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, senior editor at WeissRatings.com. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Sean, you just returned from the New Orleans Investment Conference. What was the chatter there all about?
Well, people were really positive on gold. I definitely got that feeling. I found uranium miners surprisingly resilient considering the carnage that's happened in that industry over the past year. But they all talked about things that are happening. They're expecting another ruling from the Trump administration pretty much by the end of the month. And they think that could be very positive for their industry, so we'll see how that goes. And I also talked to some lithium developers and explorers. And again, that's a metal that's been crunched this year, but they're looking at the long-term trends and they're feeling very, very good about things. So it was a really upbeat conference. The people who are in uranium mining, I would just call them more resilient than anything else, but those people in gold and silver, they are hungry for what's coming next. They can really see things moving in their favor.
With that positivity, do you think it'll result in more investment in junior miners?
Well, I don't think people will be investing in cannabis anytime soon. I don't know if you've seen the carnage in that sector. By the way, I was speaking on cannabis at the New Orleans Investment Conference. It's primarily a gold conference. They asked me if I could speak on cannabis. This was much earlier in the year, and I said, sure. By the time it came for me to speak, I was emailing them frantically saying, I don't want to talk on cannabis. And they said, you're the headliner. Anyway, my point is, I don't think that the Canadian cannabis industry is going to be the huge money suck that it was, say, in the past year when money that should have gone to precious metals ended up in cannabis. A lot of those cannabis stocks have to prove themselves right now. I actually think there are good buys in the Canadian cannabis sector, but I'm looking more at extraction stuff or ultra-premium cannabis, which are generally much smaller companies. I think the big giants of Canadian cannabis still have some reckoning ahead of them.
Is the problem slow government rollout across the country, or were people just too damn enthusiastic about it to be realistic?
Those two things both have their place. I mean, we know that Ontario has 24 stores, something like that. It's nuts. But they will be opening up more stores. So there is that. And then just it sure seems like for regulatory agencies that are supposed to help companies sell their product, those agencies in Canada that oversee cannabis don't want anybody to sell anything. I mean, the way they overregulate is insane, and I'm sure that's had something to do with it. Then we also have to mention, though, self-dealing in the corporate suites of the big Canadian cannabis companies. We see them repeatedly failing to execute on promises and expectations. So I think mismanagement has something to do with this as well. But those are problems that can be fixed. The actual sales in Canada are actually going quite well. They're ramping up and everything else. So the underlying business is good. They will have to deal with oversupply of non-premium weed. It's like styling. It's just stacking up in warehouses right now. And that's mainly because the government's making people jump through too many hoops to sell it. But at some point that will hit the market. There's too much. They're still building more greenhouses. There are problems that will have to be worked out, but the underlying market is actually quite healthy. And I think it looks good for extraction companies, people that have a real niche in the market that can't be easily addressed by other companies, and also the super premium cannabis growers. It's actually quite difficult to grow super premium cannabis. Some people are quite good at it, and so they should do pretty well.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, how's crude oil doing?
Well, it's pretty flat, really, which is kind of surprising to me because they reported a big build in the latest government numbers that came out. And the fact that it's quite flat when they report a big build, that's actually kind of bullish. We'll have to see what happens. There is news out of Saudi Arabia, which is having its big oil company go public. Iran just announced that it discovered a massive field of oil. So there are those things, and you can see not much impact on the market from news right now, which is weird. But I guess people are actually waiting for the other shoe to drop in the Middle East, would be my guess. So, again, we've had a flattening over the past couple weeks, since, I'd say, the beginning of the month. And we really need something new to knock oil out of that range, either up or down. For now, as long as you have an oil company that can make money at these prices, and it is, it's over $55 a barrel in the U.S., that's not bad, and they pay a nice dividend, then that's not a bad thing to have in this market, I think.
Do you think the Middle East, we could see another attack on a Saudi facility, which either could be self-directed or encouraged just to get prices back up again?
Well, I don't know if they'd attack their own facilities, but I could definitely see something going wrong. There's far too many weapons just stacked up around that region of the world, and far too many people who hate their neighbors. I mean, that is actually part of the problem, is the unpredictability of it. Will it be Libya? Will it be Saudi Arabia? Will it be Iran? Will it be something in Syria that just spirals out of control and impacts oil and impacts the oil-producing nations in the region? I mean, the instability is really a problem there. But I mean, it's a problem for oil producers, but it's good for, say, gold, because as people get more scared, then they turn to the big safe havens. And so I think that's partly supportive of what's going on in the gold price right now.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, the Fed is pumping $60 billion a month into where? And what's the plan, and will they continue to do it? this non-quantitative easing.
Right. They refuse to call it quantitative easing, even though they are buying treasuries from banks. And what they're doing is they're injecting more liquidity into the system. You have to wonder why they think the system is undersupplied, because there seemed like there was plenty of liquidity. Apparently, the Fed thinks that the market needs more, which makes me think they're scared about something that they aren't really fessing up to right now. We'll just have to see how that goes. But when the banks have that money on hand, they turn around and say, what are we going to do with all this cash? Let's buy the big name stocks. And so that's why you see the large stocks, the big cap stocks, going higher, because it's the banks doing the buying, while mid cap and small cap stocks really can't get out of their own way. That's I think that could continue for quite some time. It would not surprise me to see this market go sideways for the rest of the year. I mean, when the Fed's pumping money into it, which it is doing right now, that generally sends stocks higher. So if we do see a move higher, Santa Claus rally, it's not going to be a huge surprise. But I at least expect things to go sideways simply because of the Fed supporting the market.
Mm-hmm. Now, when the Fed pumps $60 billion a month into the system, where does that money come from?
Oh, well, the Fed creates it on its balance sheet, and then they just use it to repurchase treasuries and stuff like that. It's all just moving around, electronic bits. It's not like there's a printing press somewhere. It's all electronic.
I know, because I always talk about they're printing more money, but in fact they're not.
No. And one thing that we have to realize is that the rules of the game have changed economically. But they could change again. One way that would be really bad, at least for people in the Western world, specifically in the United States, is right now we are seeing Russia and China accumulate tremendous amounts of gold while lowering the amount of U.S. treasuries they hold. In Russia's case, they've pretty much swapped all their treasuries for gold. And in China's case, they're just generally bleeding off the amount of treasuries they hold, while at the same time accumulating a lot of gold. And so while you might think it might be crazy for them to disconnect from the U.S. dollar, after all, China sells us a lot of stuff. It helps them to have their currency be cheaper. Nonetheless, these look like the moves of two countries that really chafe under the yoke of U.S. dollar hegemony. They don't like the fact that we can push people around and use our currency as a club when we don't get things the way that we want. Now, would they go whole hog and break from the dollar system? I don't think so. But there could be more changes coming up which could eat away at the credibility of the U.S. dollar. In the meantime, we just had the highest federal deficit in 7 years. We just closed out fiscal 2019. Highest federal deficit in 7 years. That is nuts. And yet, if our government isn't going to look after the health of our own currency, other nations will force it on us. You can see that'll come inevitably. Might not be soon, but it's coming. So people should keep that in mind as they make investments going forward.
People have talked about how much U.S. debt China holds. Who holds China's debt?
That's a good question. You'd have to ask a debt expert on that. I don't know.
China's economic numbers for October disappointing. Industrial output down. Retail spending in China down. Should the U.S. be more concerned about the health of China's economy because it controls so much of the world's economy?
Nah, they'll just open up the sluice gates and they'll pump in more money, which is what they've always done, and I don't expect them to stop. Again, they won't stop until either things improve or they're forced to stop. And so things either will improve but I don't see anybody stopping them from doing this. So expect another round of stimulus and stuff like that in China. That's good for things like copper, because they'll announce more projects and all sorts of stuff that use up copper, use up cement, stuff like that. But it's also good for gold. So, I'm not that worried about China because it's a managed economy and they tend to manage expectations anyway. And if things start to really go off the rails, then they'll take drastic action. I worry more about the U.S. economy because no one's expecting anything bad here, and our government seems to be in a state of paralysis with two sides hating each other. I'm not sure they could take drastic action if they had to. So, that's really something to keep in mind, is that the black swan is the one you never expect. And right now everyone's expecting the U.S. economy to move along nicely. And it should. I mean, it should through the end of the year anyway and into early 2020. But, then we'll have to see as election uncertainty piles up and all that stuff, exactly what corporations do in that environment. It'll be very interesting.
Sean, how should we sum up things for this week?
This week? Well, I mean, this week seems a flip side of last week. Last week, the markets were up and gold was down. This week, gold is up and the market is pulling back. Why is the market pulling back, though? The market is pulling back because the latest rumors of a trade deal between the U.S. and China apparently aren't going to work out. But isn't it like the 7th or 8th time that it hasn't worked out? Why does this surprise anybody anymore? So I would counsel people to expect more uncertainty and invest that way, but don't panic. Simply because the Fed is managing things, pumping money into the system that should push at least the big stocks up, and the rest of the market could go with it, or at least keep things sideways. So don't panic, just be wary. That's how I would put things.
Sean, for people curious, how many editor hats are you wearing right now?
4. I have the Wealth Megatrends, which is my monthly newsletter, doing incredibly well, and people were quite happy to get free copies of that at the New Orleans Investment Conference. I also have Gold and Silver Trader, which is doing well, but this is the right environment for it, isn't it? I have Super Cycle Investor, which rides the big cycles. Not doing too badly. And I have Marijuana Millionaire Portfolio, which is in a tough spot right now, but we have picked some stocks that are actually doing okay. So, we have wins and losses in there. That market will turn around. I think that the bottom is closer than people expect in the cannabis industry. We are seeing these things knocked down to valuation levels not seen since early 2017. A whole lot of the air is rushed out of this market, which means that there are in fact stocks that make money in the cannabis industry, but they get dragged down along with everyone else. What's that mean? That means that as a value investor, you look for those stocks that make money that have been beaten down, and now's when you want to scoop them up. So I think we'll have a good time in that service going ahead, too.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you. I had a great time.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor at WeissRatings.com. If you have any questions for Sean or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.